Taiwan, I'm Sally Jensen with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan's main opposition party is accusing the government of using a national security law to persecute ordinary citizens. As John Van Trieste reports, it's a case that's highlighting both threats to Taiwan's sovereignty and civil liberty concerns.
Retired police officer Liu Jiasheng is at the center of Taiwan's newest political storm. Like many Taiwanese people, he has Chinese ancestry, and in October, he went to China in search of his roots. But despite many Taiwanese having Chinese heritage, Taiwan-China ties today are deeply strained. China claims Taiwan as its territory and regularly threatens to invade. Prosecutors say that while in China, Liu broke a national security law that aims to protect Taiwan from more subtle Chinese interference. It's known that Liu met with an official from China's Taiwan Affairs Office and called for peace with China in a group chat. But it's not clear how prosecutors think he broke the law. They haven't brought any charges. But they've called him in for questioning anyway, sparking concerns his civil liberties are being violated.
我就觉得这无形中不知道有什么力量还是什么在牵引着。我说我从年轻当兵当警察做了35年，你给我这反渗透法，真的对我很大的伤害。
Taiwan's main opposition party, the Kuomintang, says the case is political. It wants warmer ties with China, and it's accusing the ruling Democratic Progressive Party of abusing its power.
检警调，大家都是公务人员，我们不要为特定的政党再当他的打手。
The Democratic Progressive Party sees things differently.
基本上，我相信检调在调查的过程当中，其实就是要厘清。可是如果连厘清都觉得要出来抗议，那这不是心里有鬼是有什么？
Liu's situation isn't isolated. There are 100 active cases of suspected Chinese interference involving 206 people. But Liu hasn't been charged or even clearly accused. And his case highlights the difficult balance Taiwan is trying to strike between protecting its sovereignty and the principles it prides itself on, like due process and the presumption of innocence. James Lin and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Presidential candidate Ching says he can manage difficult relations with Beijing. Lai spoke to international journalists ahead of Saturday's polls. Rick Glauert was there.
It's just days until Taiwan goes to the polls and elects its new president. And here at the International Convention Center in the capital, Taipei, the candidate for the ruling Democratic Progressive Party is making one of his final pitches to be the country's next leader. In front of international media, he's positioning himself as the one to protect peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific and counter the rising authoritarianism of China.
那我希望我当选总统之后 中国也能够体会到，和平发展是双方都有责任的。台湾不会改变友善的立场，希望合作的立场，希望两岸和平共荣的立场，也希望中国能够体会到国际趋势的改变，能够回到国际的秩序上面来。
Lai says he has the answer to managing those complicated relations with Beijing, promising to take Taiwan's defense seriously while leaving the door open to communication with China. As the current VP, he's also positioning himself as the natural successor to current leader Tsai Ing-wen, saying he can carry on her work, a safe pair of hands on the wheel in this increasingly turbulent region of the world. John Su and Rick Glauert in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
President Tsai Ing-wen has announced a plan to develop advanced fighter jets in Taiwan. It's part of her government's plan to continue strengthening Taiwan's defense capabilities. Tsai also says the country's production of Brave Eagle trainer jets will be complete by 2026. Industry insiders say ongoing fighter jet development is key to keeping talent in Taiwan.
永兴高教机预计在2026年，也就是115年的整个量产会结束。那这个时候，如果说还不能够有相关的案子延续的话，对整个国内的相关航空产业会造成整个停滞。这个时候，人才的流失就会再次发生。
When it comes to defending Taiwan from a possible Chinese invasion, most of the focus is on traditional arms like fighter jets, tanks, and ammunition. But another scenario could see the island completely cut off from the rest of the world. Joyce Zeng reports on the deep-sea cables that could be used to take the country down.
A complete breakdown of critical infrastructure. That's what a dreaded 0 hour could look like for Taiwan if Beijing were to act on its threat to invade the country. Under growing Chinese military and political pressure, Taiwan's been boosting its military defenses. But according to the Deputy Digital Affairs Minister, the worst possibility wouldn't be a missile attack or troops storming Taiwan's beaches, but the severing of critical communication lines.
实际上，我们现在就已经在推演最糟糕的情况，就是我们的海底电缆整个被断掉，我们连网络都没得用。台湾是一个海岛嘛，那所以台湾所有的对外联络通讯，基本上以现在的技术还是以海底电缆为主。
Just 14 underwater communication cables link Taiwan to the outside world, which connect at 4 points on the main island. Damaging these connections could send Taiwan into a comms blackout, completely cut off from other countries. Speaking with TaiwanPlus, Global Networks Manager William Zhangjian from the telecom company manning most of these cables said he's concerned because the lines running to East and Southeast Asia effectively work as a cluster.
因为它一断的话，通常都是断的啦，不会说我东南的断了，东北的还留着。
And since 80% of these lines are in the South China Sea, they're vulnerable to Chinese attack. But Zhang says a lifeline could be the cables running out into the Pacific Ocean towards the U.S.
泛太平洋的海缆要被中断，其实有点难度，我是觉得比较高一点，因为它所在的范围其实都是在美国的保护之下。
Still, Taiwan going dark is a serious risk that would upend the lives of millions in the country. Taipei only has a handful of official diplomatic allies, and few countries have said explicitly that they would help defend Taiwan. But some analysts say shutting off Taiwan's comms might compel major world powers to offer different aid.
It's definitely easier than providing defense equipment or defense assistance because, in terms of communications blackout or something that affects the citizens more directly and is a little less controversial than giving defense equipment to Taiwan.
Taiwan's been working on building backup tech like satellites to mitigate the possibility of going dark, keeping the country connected to the world, even in a worst-case scenario. Andy Xue and Joyce Zhen for TaiwanPlus.
A court has found Taiwanese airline Eva guilty of violating staff labor rights. The Taoyuan Flight Attendants Union had taken the company to court for forcing pregnant cabin crew to accept a pay cut when they are transferred to ground staff. The Taoyuan courts ruled in favor of the union and have told Eva to compensate affected staff.
我们当然呼吁长荣航空日后不要再做这个违法的行为，应该要配合国家的政策，尽到它的社会责任。
Employers say language problems and disappearing workers are their key concerns when it comes to hiring migrant workers. But migrant worker advocates say the government needs to give them more support. Tiffany Wong reports.
Migrant workers in Taiwan don't have it easy. A recent survey by the government found that they worked an average of 48 hours per week for a salary of $1,000 a month. But it also found that employers had their own concerns when hiring migrant workers.
困扰的这个原因呢，最主要是语言不通，第二个原因是发生行踪不明失联情形，第三个是沟通困难。
Most migrant workers come from Southeast Asia and lack access to Mandarin language training. This can add a strain to their jobs and even cause them to quit without giving formal notice, leaving employers with the responsibility of paying off their debts.
那现在案件非常多，公司现在也在针对户头开户完之后的离境要做结清的动作。
Workers' rights groups say that the root cause of poor job retention is the government's lack of support, causing migrant workers to fall victim to a private broker system or suffer abuse by their employers.
So many institutional conventions mention about the government should take responsibility to guarantee the workers cross-border have to have safety channel, including not to be exploited financially or physically or psychologically by the broker or employer.
The government recently launched a streamlined service for existing foreign employees. but advocates say more needs to be done to ensure migrant workers' rights and safety. Klein Wang and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
Indonesia is temporarily grounding 3 passenger jet planes over door safety concerns. Lion Air's Boeing 737 jets are the same model as the Alaska Airlines plane whose door flew off mid-flight last week, putting passengers at risk. The Indonesian emergency exit doors are different, but the country's transport ministry says the jets won't fly until further notice. The US is heading back to the moon.
And liftoff of the first United Launch Alliance Vulcan rocket.
This rocket is shooting to make the first moon landing by the US in over half a century. If successful, the Vulcan robotic lander built by a private company would also be the first ever non-government lunar landing. The last time the US soft landed on the moon was in 1972. Hanging out with rare and exotic animals in a zoo all day may sound like a dream job for many people. But zookeepers face a lot of challenges and dangers the public may not know about, as our reporter Sandy Chi finds out.
Very few people have a daily routine like this, walking into an enclosure full of colorful exotic birds, feeding them and looking after them.
我大概做了8年，对，就照顾鹦鹉。
It may seem like a straightforward job, but it's more challenging than it looks, with a lot of details to pay attention to. From cleaning the cages to feeding the animals, zookeepers have a lot on their plates.
那不管是展场的布置，我们要上山，然后去找那一些漂流木啊，然后适合当他们的栖架的东西，然后或者是像我今天如果说群体要混群的时候，然后要做特殊的观察。
Zookeepers need to know everything about the animals they look after. That means doing their homework when they're assigned to a new species.
对，所以你可能就要花比较多的时间去了解，花更多时间去观察他们的状况啊、习惯啊，然后才有办法照顾的比较适合他们。
And being a zookeeper has its risks, as they are not dealing with pets, but wild animals. Taipei Zoo says at least one zookeeper is hospitalized each year after an encounter with an animal.
像大食蚁兽，因为它是吃蚂蚁，对，那它虽然没有牙齿，但是它有一个很有力的前手臂，很壮，然后它的爪子很长，所以它看起来虽然说无害，不会咬你，但是而且它敏感，它们比较紧张，它如果紧张的时候，它有可能会挥手，那挥到你，你可能就会流血。
Though the job is challenging and sometimes dangerous, these zookeepers are dedicated.
觉得我喜欢呐，对，但我觉得就是你要对动物真的是喜欢，对啊，那有这份热忱，对，才可以做得长久。最喜欢就是看动物乖乖吃饭，正常大便，对，然后不要打架，不要受伤，不要生病，就是我们最开心的事情。
This job certainly has its unique dangers and challenges, but for these animal lovers, it's definitely a keeper. Isan Pan and Zani Chi for TaiwanPlus.
A famous rubber duck is returning to Taiwan. People can catch sight of the giant duck in the southern city of Kaohsiung for 4 weeks from January 27th. The 18-meter-tall sculpture is the work of Dutch artist Florentin Hofman. It caused quite a splash when it came to Taiwan 10 years ago, attracting 4 million visitors in Kaohsiung alone. City officials hope the duck will boost tourism. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and the rest of the world. Finally, check out these scenes from France's west coast, where a round-the-world yacht race has just gotten underway. I'm Sally Jensen. Take care and see you next time.
Taiwan is voting for a future after President Tsai Ing-wen. TaiwanPlus has reporters on the ground.
We'll bring you a reaction as the results roll in.
The whole world is watching. We've got you covered.
Join us on election night for our live special, Taiwan Votes, only on TaiwanPlus.